are the fucking toxic motherfuckers.
Wow. So we started. Just letting you know, guys.
Oh
It,
my
it would be nice
God.
to start your intro before you start.
I
but okay.
know. I know. I
You
know.
could have warned us.
It's alive though, so I don't think we need the musical thing that Rick set up for us right
No,
now. I
like,
wish we
you
had it.
could have been like, hey guys, all right, everything's ready. I'm hitting start now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, to be fair, I went to manage stream and I know! We're getting to it. I am a technical being of mystery. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
One day you'll get it right.
One day I'll get it right. The scuff is with us, okay? I literally clicked so I bet huh? What am I streaming to my platform, my YouTube? I'll grab it.
You did it.
I will grab it. Don't you worry. I think. Can somebody grab it for me?
I got you, Bubba's. I got you.
I appreciate you.
You're lucky. You need to give me the ability to post in your announcements.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I have that ability.
There, I think. I don't know. Did that help? Can you post?
No.
How about now?
You just gave me podcast
No.
host.
Ah, shit.
Bubba's.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
You're giving the wrong person the
I
wrong-
thought I clicked the wrong person. I had a feeling.
I know it.
How about now? How about now? How
There
about
you
now?
go.
How about now?
There you go.
It's fine. It's fine. No one's watching, I hope. It's fine.
I'm crying.
Anywho. Yeah, no, if Rick actually sends me the file for the edited intro, I probably would have put that up first, but I mean, we're also doing
Speaking
a
of-
live at the moment.
Speaking of,
What?
do I need to help
Okay,
you
I'm watching
pay
the
to get it so
screen.
that he can send it to the whatever
To the staff channel, maybe,
the
possibly.
Google
I don't know.
Drive or whatever?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's only a 30-second like intro, so I mean, like he could just technically send it to the staff channel, and we wouldn't really need to put it in the
All right, Amber, go talk to Rick.
hooligan. Anywho,
Will
I
do.
hello everybody, and welcome to the Virtual Paradox podcast of sorts. I guess we're kind of doing a react video or reaction to videos today, and we're gonna be covering some saucy bullshit ideas, topics, and so on and so forth. And we're gonna try at least posting up on the opposite side or agreeing to a side or whatever reactionary we do at this point. Since I'm the scuff king at this point. I don't know. Don't look at me. I have shame. Anyway, we are gonna give this a try. Are you guys ready for the random assortment of videos I have collected today?
I don't know.
Literally an hour ago.
I'm kind of scared now.
Just go with it.
We're gonna go with it. Okay, are you guys tuned in?
Hold on, tuning in now. There we go.
Red.
You don't have to
Are
tune
you
in to the
ready?
live stream. You just gotta tune in to the Discord
Yes,
call.
I know, Bubba's.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if
I'm not
trying to
that
see if
stupid.
Baby
I'm pretty
is-
stupid, but I ain't that stupid.
Is my baby
Oh
still
god,
here?
it's whatever.
Yes, he's here.
Oh well, the
This
starter,
is
the
very-
starter one is gonna be the whatever. Yes,
We
very
love the
disappointing.
whatever podcast.
We
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
love
but
it.
I don't think I've seen it.
I
Oh
mean,
god, baby.
we love it because it's just a collective of people who don't think straight. I'm not saying that they're stupid. They just don't.
Yeah.
They don't see the outside perspective.
Well,
This is
in the
you know,
matter.
starting
the
off
issue-
real
the issue is-
good.
The issue is the other day I showed Amber a clip from the whatever podcast, and she
Oh,
agreed
you
with
did?
the crazy
Shut up,
the
shut
crazy.
up.
It's-
We're
that
on-
was-
You did
What?
not. You
What?
did not agree with the women that are unagreeable.
No.
Yes, you cannot agree with the
no,
unagreeable
no, no,
women.
Oh,
How
He-
dare
he's
you?
He's not giving context. He's
I'm
not giving
sure he's not.
context.
We're already in a saucy point at this point. I'm loving it. All right.
Okay.
The
we-
tossy
we-
under the
Started,
bussy.
and y'all are
You would have to
bullying
send
me.
the video
Y'all
for
are
us to
bullying
react
me.
to.
Oh yes, please send the video so we can react to it. Please, I'm adding it.
I will have to see if I can remember which one.
Oh
I'll find
man.
it, I'll find it.
Yeah.
I'll find
Okay,
it.
yes,
I'll
because
find
now
it.
we have to
Yes.
have that in this video. or in this
Yes, we
podcast.
have to. We're gonna start off with it. How about that? So
Okay.
we're literally gonna be waiting on you.
Okay, so yay! That's not pressure. at
Yes,
all.
we are totally putting you on the spot.
Okay, all right. Let's see.
I know you
It's,
put it either in links or in our personal DM. Give me a minute.
it
give me a
was,
minute.
yeah. I'll look links if you want to look personal.
I'm looking
DM,
links
'cause I'm
already.
pretty sure.
I'm looking links already.
Okay, go to
Okay,
personal,
well,
buddy.
then I'll go to personal. There we go. All right.
Oh man, we are starting
Okay,
off
no,
strong.
Okay, I think it's in,
First, we start
me
off
check
not
media.
ready to start.
We start off with not being ready for an hour, and then we start off with me being the Scuff
Right.
King again,
No.
And
it's
then-
2 hours.
or
Get it
2
right.
hours.
2
Okay,
hours.
fine. And
We have
then
2
Oh, here it
weeks
is.
skipped
Yes, it was on gun laws.
oh yes, there we go.
Get this
no.
stuff ready.
Wait, gun laws. Gun laws.
Yes.
Pin it. Pin it.
Yes. It was. It's Andrew Wilson's about. Wait. Hold on. Is that the right one?
If we're gonna do the gun laws, do we have to bring
Hold on,
in?
let me
About law enforcement.
If we're doing the gun or law enforcement one, does that mean I have to bring in the bear
Hold
topic
on,
as well?
One second.
You did the one about.
You might as well bring in the bear
Oh
topic.
no. Yeah, no. Okay, no. This is the
Like
one.
that.
This is the one. Okay, so the
I didn't even fully
this
watch it.
video. This video is basically talking about enforcement, right? So like who's going to enforce all these laws and stuff. It's very fascinating. Now, and for some reason,
context, I
yeah.
didn't fully watch through it. For context, I did not fully watch through it.
sure.
Of course not.
Now listen. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Hold on.
It's the
All right, let
TikTok
me-
brain of immediately needing to give an answer and not
right,
looking
right.
into the video.
Okay, hold on. Let me come down.
hate
Come
you
down
both
here. Let me. I'll put it
so
in the.
much.
I'm sorry, baby
I'm
girl.
gonna put it in the side chat here. There you go. It's in the side chat.
Already started, and it started off with bullying me. I
Yeah.
Was so
It would
Yeah.
not be a proper. It would not be a proper stream without bullying you at this point.
I mean.
You know what? I agree with
Only is the intro for the live streams now.
You're
okay?
right.
Screw
Yeah,
it.
pretty much.
Why wouldn't it be?
As long as it
concede,
keeps
what
the
is
bullying
the-
off of me.
Oh yeah. You,
What's the
you
implication
probably
of
get
that,
the
keep
brunt
Well,
of
is
it,
it
huh?
mostly men or women?
Full screen it.
In the military,
screen it,
it's
dude.
mostly men.
Mostly men.
Okay. Wait.
Full screen, and then you gotta turn your volume up.
The
We gotta-
volume's fine for me.
Okay,
The
fine.
volume
Here we
was a
go.
little bit low.
Was it a little bit loud?
Do you guys have a
No,
stream
it was a
turned
little
up?
bit low. Is what
No,
it,
his
it
stream
was.
is all the way up for me.
Okay. Here we go. Ready?
Alright.
Yes.
You're right.
I concede. What's the implication of that? Keep
Well,
going.
is it mostly men or women?
Oh, can we check the live real quick? Can somebody check for me?
Hold on. Everything should be good.
It looked fine. It looked fine to me.
Like on the YouTube live, is it running? Is
Hold
it
on.
even?
Yes. I gotta make
Functional.
sure.
Audio's coming through. You can see the video.
Can we hear the video? Can we hear the video?
Let me see.
Okay,
in the
yes, we can
military,
hear the
it's
video.
mostly men.
Mostly men.
Oh.
And
All
then,
right. All right. We're starting. Ready?
We can hear the video. Restart the video. Restart the video all the way from the beginning.
Okay. Here we go.
And now,
I might be scuffing, but damn it, work with me.
Oh my
and
god.
now, this is why you need me. And now you can hit play.
Okay.
You're right.
Okay.
I concede. What's the implication of that? Keep
well,
going.
is it mostly men or women?
In the military,
Mhm.
it's mostly men.
Mostly men. And then in the police force, mostly men, mostly women.
I guess it's mostly men.
Mostly men. In fact, can you think of a single enforcement agency which is not mostly made up of men?
I don't know. Maybe the Environmental Protection Agency.
The
Huh?
EPA?
That's
Do
an
they
enforcement
actually-
arm of the
Do they
government.
actually have an enforcement wing? Because like the IRS does, the IRS has an enforcement arm of the IRS. They carry all 9 yards, but that's mostly the agents there, mostly men too.
I'm pretty sure the EPA has to handle permits for businesses that are like polluting a lot.
Yeah, that wouldn't be enforcement though.
That
Same
is
thing with the
enforcing a
court.
law.
It's not enforcement.
That is enforcing a law.
How is it enforcing?
If there's regulations on how much emissions a company can have, and the EPA is tracking their emissions and charging them or otherwise punishing them, putting them out of business, etc., for breaking those rules, then it's an enforcement of a law.
So if it's enforcement, this requires force. That's entailed in the word enforcement.
Yeah, and
So what force are they using, or are they appealing to another branch to use force?
they're using the institutional force that's
Yeah, but
within
if
the
a business
agency
says
from the
no,
government.
we're going to keep dumping our oil in this lake, right? Does the EPA themselves actually come out and physically stop them from dumping the oil in the lake, or do they just send them a strongly worded letter is the question?
Probably a strongly worded letter. I think
Okay.
eventually people might come out and do things physically, and yeah, those people would probably be men, but I don't see
Men.
the point of your argument. It's just
Well, I
an
haven't made
argument
an
that men are
argument yet.
physically
I
stronger.
haven't even made an argument.
Okay. So,
She obviously doesn't know the difference between
Amber.
what an enforcer actually is and what a regulator is.
Yeah.
She doesn't know her definition.
I'm not gonna say a word.
What did you agree with? I'm kind of curious.
No. Let's finish this.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
see how you can see the point.
At least
if I
it's only
haven't
9
I'm
minutes.
not sure what you're setting up for, but I'm very curious.
Well, right now I'm just trying to figure out the delineation of who actually enforces the laws. The laws themselves, not people who write the laws, not people who make judgments on the laws, but the people who actually enforce the laws.
The government, the institutions that make up the government.
Institutions cannot enforce a law.
Okay,
People have to enforce a law. It's like saying the prison institution will make you go to your cell. The prison institution does not make you go to the cell. A guy with a nightstick makes you go to a cell, right?
but why does he have to do that?
Well, it's his job. He doesn't have to do it.
Who gave him that job?
Well, in this case, it would be the prison.
Is that a government-owned facility?
Sure.
So he has a government job.
Sure.
So he has to
Well, I
do
mean, but
whatever the government tells him.
No, this
The
is a
not the
different video.
government, the people in the
Not the one
government
that-
who are in those institutions
Or is it?
who
Hold on.
then give him the mandate to do whatever the job is. The institution itself is just a building, right, or an idea. It's a conflation of people. So you're making a category error when you say an institution can enforce.
Okay.
It's people who enforce, and it's
The
people who are
people-
the institution.
In the government enforce. And they
I think I
Yeah.
see sparks.
That's
coming
mine.
out
Well, they
of
don't always have to be in the
ears.
government.
I like.
Right.
Can I? I'm gonna
You're
pause it for a
separating-
second. I like
Yeah.
it how there's people out there who like want to forget the first step because it doesn't agree with them,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and it goes straight to like, oh, let me use syntax to my advantage and be like, oh yeah, but who owns this? Who does that? And okay, but
Yeah.
It's like that doesn't
There-
matter. Not against the
Yeah.
argument.
Well, that's the thing is one either A, she doesn't like actually understand the difference that he's trying to say, like doesn't actually comprehend it, or B, she's so stuck on what she knows and he's wrong that she can't even listen to what he's saying, and she just goes speaking in circles.
right, which is like, I get where you're trying to present, but we gotta at least focus on what's the front. Like, let me put it this way: if you're looking at a big company, let's say iPhone, right? iPhone themselves make the phone, sure. There's no arguments there, but who delivers the phone or who gives the phone? There's always that face value first person interaction, you know what I mean? Where it's like you got the store clerk, for example. He's the face of the company. It's not just iPhone. It's the person selling the phone. You know? It's like you can't forget about these these people that are in the middle ground of having to deal with what she's presenting and what he's presenting. You know what I mean? And I'm tired of people only looking at it from one side rather than acknowledging the whole image itself. Because then it's like, okay, well then you're just purposely being defiant because you know that at the end of the day you got to get that package from the mailman. You know what I mean? It's so silly to me.
Explain yourself.
Well, like you can have a citizen's arrest, you can have, various things like this where there's enforcement going on, but you're not a government agent of any kind. And you can enforce your right to self-defense without being in the government, right?
I disagree. The government is the one that gives us the right to self-defense.
So the government gives us a right to self-defense.
They delineate it, like I said, after the social contract. The people give the government the people give the people in the government the right to enforce it.
Okay. So then last thing is, when it comes to rights themselves, do you think that rights exist?
It's a very interesting topic that you've given to me multiple times.
I don't think it's just the law that gives you the right. I think who's the person who puts it into action. You know, we're forgetting who's the individual. Like at the end of the day, what you do is a choice. It's not just because something dictates it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Well, I mean, the thing is our Constitution isn't there to tell us what our rights are. It's to tell the government what our rights are, and that's
right.
what a lot of people have a don't. I don't think like a majority of people don't understand is, what you want to call it, God-given rights or whatever, just human rights, our basic human rights is what the Constitution is, and it's there to tell the government you cannot infringe on these rights. The right to our speech, the right um, uh, to
I
defend ourselves, the right to not be put through a lengthy trial, the right to not incriminate, like all these different things, not be seizure and forfeiture, all these things. These are our basic human rights, and that's what our Constitution is. Now she's trying to say that it's our social construct that gives us it's what everybody agrees are the rights. That's not what our country is founded on. Our country is founded on the idea that we are independent and that we have rights as an individual and we enforce our own rights. The government is not allowed to take those rights away.
I think we
And
should change it to common sense rights. I don't think they should be
yeah,
just defined by law because like at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff just makes sense. You know what I mean?
well, I
See,
mean,
the
okay,
thing
so
about
there's
common sense is it's only common sense if people know about it, right? And a lot
Right.
of people don't have that common sense because they weren't taught or they don't care. So saying common sense really isn't right for the matter. It's like, yeah, sure, it's common sense to me and it's common sense to you, but if they don't know any better or they don't care to know any better, then it's no longer common sense, honestly.
yeah,
No, I get
and
that. Yeah,
along those
you're right.
lines, so if you're thinking about it along those lines of the comments, so now we're getting into morality constructs. What and social society what decides what our morality is, or base whatever uh,
Hmm.
between different religious sects or whatever. So like we're not talking about some like society says we can do this and that. We're not talking um, about what's acceptable or the common sense. The thing is there's a separation. We make laws that that our society says we shouldn't do this as a society. Those are not our innate human rights. Our innate human rights are the things that, like, as a human, we have these rights, and so that's what our Constitution is protecting, right? So,
Hmm.
yeah, we make laws all that we have way too many laws. Humans, our society has gone through a plethora of times of like where people have voted to and agreed that we want to do these things. It's where we have crazy stuff like don't spit on the sidewalk, you can't eat a pie off a window on Sunday, like just like crazy stuff. That's society based lawmaking stuff. We go through all this, but and our government is designed to try to slow down the craziness that is society and the craziness that is big government.
Yeah, because we're supposed to look at
Everything.
a commonwealth, not commonwealth, but common good
Yeah.
versus,
Yeah,
you
and,
know.
and and that's why we're set up now. In today, we have all this bureaucratic nonsense that cuts through all that, and all you have even more oppression and big government coming in because we have gotten away from what our founders intended.
Right,
But
which was the
when we're to
general good. Now we're starting to look at it from every minority's point of view,
yeah,
despite it being oppressive towards maybe people of a regular stature, stature or
yeah,
living
well,
concept.
it's the good mentality. Well, oh, we want to live and let live. Everything all these socialist and communist things that have been beat into our head growing up about
Right.
how we should be accepting of everything and everyone, and that's perfectly fine. We should treat other people the way we want to be treated, but at the same
It's
time, it
fine when
shouldn't.
it's it's for everybody, but it's not fine when it starts to become for the few, where
Yeah,
it's like you have
it's
people
not fine whenever the few expect the many to capitulate to unagreeable, like
standard.
unnecessary standards. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, and on an individual basis, we should allow people to have the freedom to express themselves, even if it's unpopular opinion, because that's the whole point. If you go out and mistreat or verbally mistreat someone,
Someone should be
you
able to
should
speak
be
up.
able to do that. However, society can be like, you're an asshole. We don't like you. We're not going to talk to you.
Right.
That should be how it is, not like every single person has to go out and wear a pin and a badge, to do pronouns or whatever. But I
Which
think
is
we've
something
gotten
we
way
often
off.
see in like VR chat with the statuses, which is like an honorary badge of saying that you're LGBTQ or whatever else.
Yeah,
And I mean,
and
it's
that's
extended
great.
pretty.
Great for them, But whenever and for the most part, whenever I run across those people, I try to respect them because
Yeah.
I'm, like I said, a firm believer of do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Now,
Yeah, the
if they're
problem is
going to
dealing
go
with the
out of their
bad
way to be
eggs.
if yeah, and you have quite a few bad eggs, and they want to go out of their way to, you make one slip or you don't capitulate immediately or whatever, then all of a sudden it's okay to the
Yeah,
front of the door, and you're
it's
just
it's
crazy.
the whole concept of a bad actor that is trying to keep their and this is just my opinion. Obviously, I'm not trying to, denigrate anybody, but this is just a bunch of people who have not grown out of the high school mentality and feel to be okay with the whole victim mentality like a child, and they perpetuate that through a yes group mentality that you see in VR chat example, and it becomes damaging because you have a whole bunch of people that are saying yes even though that same person is diddling like somebody that said no, or pushing somebody through an ideal concept that it's okay to transition even though that person never thought that they wanted to transition to begin with, and it just becomes a yes pressure, the whole pressure, social pressure to do it or whatever have you, and it's growing steadily in VR. I mean, even recently I saw, was it Trans Academy and all these other LGBTQ stuff putting on the front page of VR chat, and there's nothing wrong against it, of course. I'm all for it. I just know that there are a couple of bad actors in there purposely pushing that stuff so that they can pretty much berate and belittle other people. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times I've been into a public lobby and these people are just going ham at somebody who's just straight and having a good time, or
Yeah,
who's white or whatever,
yeah,
against these common activism groups. And it's just
yeah.
like they
Well,
weren't doing anything to you,
I
you
feel like
know?
these days a lot of the activist groups, it's more about money than activism.
Oh, for sure.
Um, I mean, like, and it's. I mean, I guess if you look throughout history, it's kind of what it is. You have like a group of people that feel like they're completely um, being ostrated or whatever, and so they protest,
Ostracized.
and then you get people come in and occupy it and take it over, and then turn it into a cash cow. Like, I mean, you look at certain aspects of certain popular activist movements right now, BLM.
Hey, hey, hold on. We'll get back to that. I'm sure we'll cover it again in a couple of the
Mhm.
videos coming up. But let's get to this so we can also
Yeah,
talk about Amber's approval point, because we have a little bit sidetracked for a
yeah,
second
Okay,
there.
some
yeah.
of it,
We have
some of it,
gotten.
like, we've gotten past the part I did watch. The rest of this I did not watch.
Oh, okay. So
Uh,
tell us your
I,
opinion then.
apparently, yeah.
What were
She,
you
yeah.
agreeing with?
The thing that okay, so you know what? No.
Say
No,
it.
no, no.
Say it.
Say it. Say it.
Oh
So
my
here's
God,
what.
baby.
It's okay to be bullied in
No,
a group. We love you.
I'm not gonna let the bullying continue.
Okay. Okay. How
There's
about
no
this? How about
bullying
this?
here.
Sure.
There will be no bullying. There will be no downgrading you. It's just what your opinion is, what you agreed with, and whether or not you have changed your mind or if you're sticking with it. And then we will give our side. If
And
our side
then
is different.
there's my side where I'll be
Or-
poking and prodding at you.
You will not be poking and prodding. We have
Ah,
agreed. No bullying, no poking and prodding.
that's no fun.
Bully.
This is a debate, not this is a conversation debate, not a bully session.
Ah, Give us your
Arr.
opinion there, Amber.
So I had not fully watched through the first part of them talking about the enforcement. Um, what I had agreed with was that like yeah, technically it's a way of like like not sending a letter, but like the people that make the laws, they kind of enforce them, like like hey, you can't do this, like you know but then I was like, oh wait, yeah, technically they don't enforce them, like they like they tell you like hey, this is a thing that has to be done, but they don't really make the person stop.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my opinion did change. So
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where when you look at it, right? Yeah, it makes sense that you would first assume that it is the body of government that is the one that is enforcing the laws. But then if you have to actually break it down, it's a set group of people who actually go out and pursue the action of enforcing the law versus the actual government, right? Because obviously you have even people who are corrupt in those places that enforce that put force upon you that isn't quite exactly according to law, right? That's why we have things such as lawsuits and so on and so forth. All
Real
right.
quick.
Yes.
I just got a message that the voices coming through Discord into the stream are low.
Are low? Okay, I'll lift
Yes.
it up higher. There you go. How about now?
That is a
Ah.
good question. I will.
Because for
wait
me,
for the
we were
confirmation.
peeking into the yellow and the red, so that's why I had to lower it.
Right. Because my brother messaged me, so let me see.
Oh, that's nice of you.
Anyway.
Hello, brother. Hello.
Continue. Sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those things where it's like enforcing something and force itself are completely different from say law and so on and so forth, because at the end of the day, if somebody overpowers you physically, that's a type of enforcement or force applied to somebody, right? So you have to think of the larger picture of it being the start and the end of where it became from and where it's actually being applied. And that's what I think he's trying to share with this girl here. However, she's so distracted with the beginning rather than seeing the end and the fruition of how these acts are perpetrated or these things are committed to and being actually executed, that she feels she's in the right. So that's what happens a lot when we talk about these types of topics, where people only see it from one perspective rather than seeing the full image.
Cause yeah, I saw it from both like sides. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's law enforcement, but then like there's people who kind of pay the bills for the law enforcement if they follow the law. Kind of, I don't know how to say that correctly, but like if the laws aren't enforced, or like the law enforcement doesn't enforce the laws, then like we're kind of fucked.
Right.
Well, there's an interesting thing. So, the ATF, they've been there. There's a lot of things going on with the ATF that are really bad. So they go through and they're interpreting the laws passed by Congress however they want, and their directive is to basically eliminate anything gun related as much as they can. So they've been we talk about they try to create this crazy thing where pistol braces. They're a brace that you put on pistol style ARs or whatever, they to help stabilize it against your arm for vets that only have use of one arm. That's what it was originally intended for. Now, because you have a buffer tube there and you're adding like a little thing on it, it looks like kind of like a stock, and so they're trying to say, oh no, that's a short barrel rifle. Now, under the actual, like if you look at the actual law, there's nothing that says that you cannot do that. There's a buffer tube there. You can shoulder the buffer tube even without the brace. They're saying because you add the brace, because it now looks like a stock, that it's a short barrel rifle. Well, ATF does not have the authority to do that, but they're trying to. They wrote all this stuff and saying, no, you do this. We're going to enforce this. Now they can go out and tell all these people, oh no and everything, and they went through back and forth all this different stuff. They went for like I don't know, it was like 10 maybe more years where they said no, this is perfectly fine, and then now we have Biden in office who said no, this is so they flipped it after years and years and years and said no, actually it's not fine, and here's exactly what you have the brace has to do. Made this convoluted thing where you don't even know if you're going to be an outlaw in like I think it was like a month time, and they essentially made this thing. They're like, oh, this is now outlawed, and if you have possess one, you can get a felony, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of them out there. People own them because they weren't regulated, and so they're just going to make everybody basically an outlaw overnight. And so they said you can turn it in, we'll give you a free tax stamp on this one, and which is like, okay, you'll just go get your tax stamp, register it, everything. Well, here's the thing: there were, there's like I don't know, like 100,000 of them out there. Just to throw a number out there. Not even, I think it wasn't even like 2%. I'd have, like I said, again, I'd have to go look at it. It was a very low percentage of people that actually registered these things because they said, no, F you ATF, you can't do this. And there's already lawsuits in the wait. We're going to wait it out because we refuse to register these non-firearm devices that were perfectly fine before, So that's the thing is society still is going to be like, even if you have ATF who has an enforcement branch, who did go out and mess with people, and there were arrests made, they don't have enough to go out and handle every single case except for doing it over the years and years and years and years that it happens. So there's still a give and take of like, if there's not enough enforcement, if enough people say no to government, enough people say no, I'm not going to listen to you, or there's a breakdown where people don't trust law enforcement anymore, they're not going to listen to law enforcement because they don't believe that they're having their best interest. Like look at a large amount of people that have distrust of it because of all the George Floyd and everything else. Everybody hated cops.
We could also look at something recent, which is the kids in the campus in California who decided to barricade themselves in one of the offices or one of the campus buildings, and the police enforcement had to go overnight for 2 straight days, even though while they were setting this up, took them 2 days to actually gather before they actually got the students out of the facility. Like, and not enough enforcement can cause people to rally up in action into a way that could be harmful to, especially to, let's say, alone the teachers and alumni that have to go and do these studies and stuff. They didn't have a place to go do that, therefore the classes had to be canceled and the teachers had to get, what they got, and it causes problems down the way if we don't have enforcement. And the problem is that we're so vehemently against enforcement or police in general that it's causing more issues than it's solving. In an entirety, you know what I mean? Like, we want to defund the police so damn hard that you have a situation like the campus that happened recently, or the whole situation with the ATF, where if they're even trying to, I'm not saying that it was a good thing that they had to add this whole stock nonsense to it, but let's say if it was really a problem and it needed to be solved, they don't have the manpower to do it because we've gone out of our way to say F the police or F whatever.
Well, I mean, me personally, I don't say F the police, but I will say F the ATF. They are an organization that needs to be completely just gotten rid of. I mean, you look at all the evil things that they've done, the horrible things they've done, the amount of bureaucracy and bypassing Congress and everything else. I'm sorry to go off on tangent. I think ATF is one of the worst offenders in our nation.
It's okay.
Other than a couple other ABC places, but whatever.
Yeah, we'll track along because we are getting a little bit out of hand.
Yeah, that's my fault.
I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next.
Go?
Yeah, it went a bit
south.
Got me on
real fast. And I just went off.
We're gonna go to the next video. All right. because we kind of get where Amber was at to begin with, anyways. So
Yeah.
we're gonna go to the next video. You guys ready?
Yay!
Racist towards white people. A couple
Full
people. That
screen.
seems to be the. Apparently, you can't be racist towards white people. A couple people. That seems to be the position. Can't be racist towards white people. What if I was in China? Just curious. Could then?
That's a good question.
Even then.
No, I mean, I think people in China could definitely be prejudiced towards a white person, but I'd have to think about if it could be racism. I don't think
What?
so.
You mean what?
Well, because
You
okay,
can't. In China, you couldn't be racist against a white person in China, like a Chinese person.
if we're going off my definition of like institutional racism, you could maybe be racist against like white people who live in China and live there like full time. If they're discriminated against,
What if they're tourists?
I think you could be prejudiced against them.
You couldn't be
Or Chinese
racist.
people
What?
could be. No, I don't think
What
so.
kind of like crazy definition?
When you
I find it funny when people put like a half thought into what they're trying to say, because racism isn't just indicative to like your actual race, but it could also be like how BLM always puts it, where it's your color of your skin, right? And for her to apply just the BLM logic, which is just the color of your skin rather than your race, which is actually predicated on what racism is about in a definition wise, it's silly to think that she doesn't think that you being of a different race, being aka Caucasian or black or whatever, and then them
Okay,
being
so-
racist
Real quick.
doesn't apply.
The definition of racism, right?
Mm-hmm.
The belief that different races possess distinct characteristics, abilities, or qualities, especially so as to distinguish them as inferior or superior to one another, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the definition for prejudice. 1, preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. And 2, dislike, hostility, or unjust behavior deriving from unfounded opinions, which can be used one in the same. You can be prejudiced against someone that's still racism. If you're prejudicing against somebody, right?
Right.
You're being racist against them.
It
So
can be.
the
Yes.
fact that she literally was like, they can be prejudiced against a white person, but they can't be racist against them. If they're being prejudiced against a white person because they're a white person, they're being racist.
The only time
It's
prejudice doesn't
pretty much-
apply to racism is when you're talking about your same your same race, I think. But even still, it doesn't make sense to not have them both as like a synonym of one another. To
Right.
be honest.
I mean, they literally are synonyms. You look
Yeah.
it up, and they are synonyms for each other.
So that's why
But-
this logical fallacy that she has, it's so stupid.
Mhm.
Because you cannot sit here, and this is why I don't believe in looking at somebody by race or by color. I can understand that you maybe have stereotypes, and that's, I think, it's more basis for comedy sense rather than actual, disdain for somebody or dislike for somebody to cause the whole racist and whatnot. But the whole process of actually sitting there and looking at, oh, because you're a woman this, or because you're a man this, or because you're white this, and not treat him as a person is ridiculous to me, And that's why
Right.
it's one of those things where it's like, if people can agree to this, why can't we also come to terms of when it comes to sexuality, or when it comes to what do you call it, identifying or whatever, right?
Mhm.
It's like they're one and the same. They're just under different context. So why is it that you can't apply what's basically the same logic onto a different subject? You know what I mean?
Right.
you give us the definition,
Mhm.
because I noticed.
Center,
you
center,
see,
center,
I'm always
center.
very nitpicky with words because
Yeah.
leftists like to use them as weapons. I also do. I'd like to ask you real quick. Can you give us your definition of racism again? Because you keep saying if we're going off of.
Oh, he's gonna do what we
definition,
just
and I would
did.
like to go off of your
Yep.
definition. So what is it?
Institutional racial discrimination.
And institutions are.
Okay, but what is
Like,
I think a lot of people just want to have that like mentality that they're superior,
Right.
and then there's also
See-
like, because they start using words like, what's it called, institutional.
Right. She wants to sound intelligent, and what she's doing is she's using the word in the definition, but not defining it. And it's like, okay, but what is that to you? Like, what is that?
Right,
And she's not doing that.
which is something
she's
that
just
you
trying to
often
sound
see in
smart.
whatever
Just
podcast.
repeating buzzwords.
Yeah.
Right.
the government. I mean, basically, I'm just talking about the government, but it could also be like social institutions as well, like schools, just clubs,
Like the church could be an
organizations.
institution, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So when we're talking about institution, what you're actually specifically saying here is anything which could have authoritative political power.
Sorry, can you
Is
repeat
that
the
right?
question? Can you repeat the question?
Anything which has authoritative political power would be an institution.
I wouldn't say that, but I could. Yeah, sure, we can go with that.
Well, I want to make sure I'm clear on your definition.
Yeah, we can go with that.
So, a church could have authoritative power.
Oh yeah,
whatever he
inside the
says.
government, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what if you had
Because this is a person who comes from a sense of negligence and like, not negligence. What's the word? Not being intellectual, but what's the word? Ignorance. Thank you.
Ignorance, yes.
From a place of ignorance,
Yeah.
where she wants to again be a part of the big table, of the adult table, and then doesn't actually sit there and acknowledge the consequences of what you say, the things that you're like, the full thought process, and all these other different things, to where when she gets put on the spot, just like most of other people who are still within their infancy, in my opinion, when it comes to the mental attitude, where they sit there and they want to argue because they want to be right, because they think age is the one that the definer of maturity and all this other different shit. You know what I mean? And it's so silly because they don't sound logical. You know, they don't sound like they actually believe in what they believe in, because they never sat there and actually put in the work that is required to believe into something. Does that make sense?
an all-black church who was speaking out against whites? That's an authoritative institutional power. Would that be racist?
It's not on the same scale. I think you have to think. I think you have to think about.
Now it's scalable. So what scale is it when they lose the
I
institutional
do think
power?
it's scalable. Actually, I think it has to. I mean, obviously.
Okay, hold on.
You could see the smugness. You know what I mean? From a stance
Yeah.
of ignorance. Go ahead. I knew you wanted to add something. Go ahead.
No. I was just. I think I missed what he said and what she was replying to. I apologize.
Oh, we can wind back. No problem.
Scalable. Actually, I think it has to.
Institutional power. Would that be racist?
It's not on the same scale. I think you have to think. I think you have to.
You want me to
think
go
about
back a little bit?
A little bit more, yeah. I need
Black
fully what he had
church
said.
who was speaking out authoritative power
Oh yeah,
inside
absolutely.
of government, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what if you had an all-black church who was speaking out against whites? That's an authoritative institutional power. Would that be racist?
It's not on the same scale. I think you have to think. I think you
No,
have to think about.
now it's
Okay,
scalable.
okay.
So what?
So you could see how ridiculous that sounds, right? Because at the end of the day, we're actually witnessing that type of behavior, especially in social media. Between, especially if you look at stuff like 4B or Black Lives Matter or whatever tag you want to go under, right? Where you have these groups of people predicating towards a bad intentional idea, right? Of suppressing one person or another, right?
Right.
And treating them like shit. And then you have people like this, like her, who come in and say, well, it's not the same because... No, it's coming from a place of somebody wanting to gain power through it with their ignorance and using barely an ounce of brain power to actually sit there and think about things because it's easier. Because people, especially in our modern day and age where we've made a lot of things easier and at hand, right? Like delivery services, food services, and so on and so forth, that everything is within reach within like 5 minutes, right? That's the word, instant gratification, right? That they want to not put in the work or effort to get into these places, and then they want to be able to control things without any effort at all because they don't think about it. Like let's say for example, you know how many of us on the common scale think about government being an easy job and how they basically sit around and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we actually look at the job, imagine the amount of paperwork they got to go through. Imagine how much they have to actually sit there and think about opposing spectrums to things or possibilities and ideals and concepts. and how much we sit there and be like, okay, yeah, we could take the easy way route, at like how half of the politicians do, where they don't actually think and they just do the job, right? Or you can have people like, let's say for you and me in a factory position or whatnot, how we sit there and some of our coworkers don't work right, and some workers want to work really hard. Well, that's the problem. We try to label something on a general consensus, and some of them and most of them don't work hard, but some of them do. And it makes it that much harder to distinguish the lines. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, I think a lot of what's going on, you know, because you have people that, so from her from her perspective, you know, she has this idea that, you know, she's heard things from other people, she's listened to stuff, and you have and it's coming from a lot of people that are, like you said, are trying to gain power, so they do all this different stuff, but and all they ever speak to is think of the children, or like it's all supposed to be good and nice, right? So from her
Mhm.
perspective, her perspective is she's thinking about things in a good term, that this is the right way, this is that, you know, this is what she, now she hasn't applied any logic to the way she thinks about it. She's just hearing people talk about these things. She says, "Oh, well, I want to do the good thing. I want to look good. I want people to think good of me."
Mhm.
So it's amazing what the mind will do to
To
go
have
through all
social
these
acceptance.
logical fallacies to come up with some way of thinking to make everything okay and right,
In her
and that the
mind,
other
yeah.
person is wrong. So like this one, you see them going through in and weaving in and out, and everything doesn't make sense, is because their brain has literally fabricated all this stuff to make it all make sense to them. It's why it's very hard to understand what they're saying sometimes, because they're not thinking logically, they're thinking emotionally, and their brain is making it up as it goes along to make it make sense. And then they get some point at some point where they think that they're so right, that this other person's so wrong, that they think they can actually go in and tell them off, because they've thought it through. They you know, they've got it just right. They know what they're talking about. It's
Right.
how you have like all these people, like imagine, how does he get all of these women on here? There's so many of them, and they actually come here, even though he destroys them left and right. They still come. It's because they all think they're right. They all think they've gone through all this stuff. They don't think logically. They think emotionally, and it's not. Um, it's not that they're, I don't know. I'm getting into a tangent, but essentially, you know, it's that it's just that their brain has literally made it in their
I'm
head.
a, I'm
Everything sounds
gonna
right.
I'm gonna interject and
Yeah, go ahead.
say for clarification. I'm hoping and praying I'm correct in this, baby. You don't think all women only think
No,
emotionally?
no, 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 absolutely not. Like when you look at, okay, and I'm not just talking about women. I run into people all the time, men as well, that they go through and they don't sit there and look at facts. They don't go look at research on their own. They just hear all these different talking points and think, oh, I really want to do the right thing. I want to think that they think they're thinking the right way, doing the right thing, but they're not getting into the nitty gritty of it. That's why you
They're
have
not
a lot
thinking
of the.
from a multiple perspective angle. They're
Hmm.
thinking it from one
Yeah,
side that is social
it's
norm accepted, and then they run with it
hmm
because they want to be
that's
socially
why
accepted.
you've seen I've seen so many examples of people that were in that kind of mindset, like were on like deep left or whatever, however you want to think about it. That whenever they actually went to go try to debunk things and they started getting down the logical path, they instantly flipped and were no longer on that side,
Mm-hmm.
because they were like, "Oh crap, I've been doing this. I've been thinking about this the wrong way the whole time." They went in and looked at the truth. They went in and looked at the different stuff, went down the logical path, and then had their minds changed. Um, and it's very difficult because it's almost like a cult. You know, these people, they're blindly following what everything does, or and they're allowing their minds to make up every kind of excuse for it. Um, and it's like I said, it's not just women, but like because it's women on the show, that's where you're seeing it.
Yeah,
And I think this show kind of does a disservice
when it comes to that,
in that manner, because I mean he's getting the kind of the lowest of the low here in
he's
some of the
scraping the bottom
logical
of the barrel.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's coming in and just absolutely shredding them because it makes good content, you know. Um,
at the end of
But
the day, you have a group of people, you have the general public that don't sit here and actually contemplate about a lot of this stuff. They just want something that's easy to watch, that can get them through the rest of the day, that we're gonna relax from when it comes to work or other. The problem is that we have a society of people that are so busy doing work and labor that when
or
it comes
just
to
playing video games.
or playing video games or relaxing or whatever, that you have a society of people that doesn't expand themselves past what's in front of their face. And that's why we have a society that is also quote unquote a TikTok mind, which is instant gratification
Yeah.
and going through the paces of things on a quick and easy level because they want to. That's just how we set ourselves up to be. We're a quick pace society. We get things done and that's about it. We don't sit there and ponder like back in the day where we didn't have instant gratification, where you had to work for things, where things weren't readily available, so you had to go and get stuff done, and then you had a copious amount of time to actually sit there and think. What you have now is instant gratification, where we can go look on Google and get what we want right away or whatnot. Okay, it's so instant that we've forgone the higher processes of thinking and contemplating about things and seeing where we actually sit upon things, that people tend to have these opinionated views because now we're fixated on societal acceptance versus what we actually think as an individual.
We got so far away from racism again.
Yes, sorry. We're going to continue the video.
When they lose the
I
institutional
do think
power?
it's scalable. Actually, I think it has to. I mean, obviously, in a different country, I think that could be
Well, we're
could be
talking
racism.
about this country.
I don't think that could be racist in this country. Black people
So
are
an
still
entire-
the minority.
What?
They're still the minority.
Okay.
There's still a history of chattel slavery, which
So,
white people
if
have
it's
been
a mi-
enslaved, but not in the same way. Chattel slavery
Okay, so I
is
just want to
not in the
clarify
same
on
way.
this.
Not
If
Slavery
if
is slavery. What the?
I
Slavery is
love
slavery.
every time somebody brings up the slave topic, because it's like, okay, then you clearly haven't been to Africa, you clearly haven't been to Asia, or you clearly haven't been to Europe during all these different time periods, right? Because even Jewish, even though they were in a enforcement camp or whatever, what is it called?
Concentration camp.
Concentration camp, that is considered a form of slavery when you think about it, because they had people that were basically caged up and having to do manual labor or gassed or whatever, right? They were white for the most
Yeah.
part. Or let's go to early West
I mean,
civilization.
there are places today where there's still slavery.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not
Um,
necessarily just people of color or people of ethnic background. You could go there and get enslaved today. But
Right.
it's funny to me because we don't think about, like, let's say the early West, where we had people mining and doing the railways tracks, where Asian people were being blown up at the time, right? That could be a form of looking at it a certain way, because I don't remember if they were getting paid or not, but you get the point, right?
Yeah.
There was a lot of shady shit going in the background that nobody ever wants to talk about, because if we talked about them, then the first world problems would disappear, right? They always want to have somebody who's a victim because it enforces a level of power on a social norm basis, not on an enforcement basis. Because I could still go up to, like, say, any of my neighbors or colleagues or whatever and say this, that, or the other that could get me canceled easily, which I'm not going to fucking do, but you get the point. Where, all that social norms can be quote unquote enforced, but what are they going to do at the end of the day? I'm not going to get thrown in prison for it. You know what I mean? I might get my life unalived, but you know what I mean? It's stupid because we want to place these first world problems because we got nothing better to do. We want to create drama where there is no drama. Anyways, I'm gonna continue on because we are literally only the second video in, and we got all these to cover.
power, then that institutional power could be racist, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And do you know what the black population is of Detroit?
I mean, that's Detroit. We're talking about the United States as a whole.
Yeah, hang on. I was very specific about what institutional power was here, and you said any authoritative body which has political power would be an institution. Yes or no? Okay, so do you know what the racial demographic is of Detroit?
I'm guessing majority black.
Oh, a vast majority. So if they were to, I don't know, from the pulpit, create anti-white rhetoric. They now have institutional authority by your definition, correct? They now have institutional power by your definition, correct? That would fall under racism by your definition. Is that correct?
That, I mean, yes, but if I'm really thinking about it like that, I would have to clarify that there would have to be some, like, institutional power would have to actually have an effect on white people's lives. Like, I guess I would adjust my definition
So
of
if you have a
institutional.
majority black population and there's a minority white population and they create any type of legislation from an authoritative position,
Yeah,
which
sure,
is
if they were
discriminatory
creating-
towards white people, that would be racism, right?
If they were creating legislation, sure, but I really don't
If
think
they
that's the
created
case.
legislation
Okay,
which
yes.
in any way, shape, or
In
form
your-
was
in your
discriminatory towards
hypothetical-
whites, right?
Yes. In your hypothetical, if they were creating anti-white legislation that was having a real material effect on white people's lives, that would be anti-white racism.
And here's the funny, because when you think about it, right? We're talking about institutional. Okay, sure. That means it has to have a source of power, right?
Right.
Let's see what social media does nowadays.
Oh, social media gives everyone
Right.
so much power.
What does social media do when you have about 1 million followers that like a certain video? What does that cause? We've seen what it causes because we have quite a few layoffs because of social media, correct?
Yes.
We've also seen the ramifications of OnlyFans and how that applies to future jobs and so on and so forth, right? That is a social media ramification, right?
Yes.
So, if social media is an institutional power in and of itself by sheer numbers, okay, does that not mean that we have a copious amount of people that are anti-white, anti-men, anti-this, that, and underneath the goddamn sun? That is considered an institutional power when you think about it. It can be, because a lot of people follow social media like fucking sheep. Yes?
Right.
So she can't sit there and say that there isn't anti-white, there isn't this, that, and the other that is against white people, because you can be, regardless, racist against them. Or what was the other word that she used? That you said it was a synonym to racism?
Prejudice.
Prejudice. So you can be prejudiced against anybody. You could be racist against anybody. And it doesn't matter if you're white, black, or whatever. This is the problem that a lot of people have with these types of topics, because it's so ridiculously silly to sit there and not say that there's not a group of a power or a group of people that are sitting out there trying to make you purposely live a shitty life, I guess, right? Because I can't tell you the amount of times in VR chat this shit is applicable, because I've gone either as a furry or as a white person or whatever, being just a man can be harmful being in a lobby. You know, just the very same as I could say that for women too. How shitty it is to have to deal with a lot of the hornballs or people who say the N-word or whatever else, right? So it goes in multiple directions, but we don't sit here and actually think about it and just live our lives. We have to take one side of the opinion because it agrees with citizen A or citizen B because it's a social fucking acceptance thing, you know?
Right.
It's so stupid.
I just
do
want to
not
make sure that
believe
we're
they
clear
are.
then,
Yeah.
before I give you such legislation, which has been passed in Detroit,
Let's hear it.
that if I can give you legislation passed in Detroit which favored the majority inside of Detroit, in this case black people, and the minority of people are white people, and they had legislation from basically an all-black political body, that this would be and fall under the criteria of anti-white racism.
I still think it's, like I said,
You
it's
still, you
scalable.
just can't do it, even by your own definitions.
No, because I think
Like,
that
you
it's
just can't.
scalable. I really do. I think we're talking
Okay,
about the
I
United
think we're
States.
done
not
with
talking.
this particular video, to be honest, because it is 12 minutes long, but I feel like they're just gonna keep bickering about the same point.
Yes.
So we're gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna truck along. Now this next one's gonna be a little oof in my opinion, but it's
It has
funny
been
to see.
absolutely hilarious to me to see men in this country losing their collective shit over the 4B movement. For those of you that don't know what it is, the movement started in South Korea, a society that is very misogynistic. The 4Bs refer to 4 words in Korean, which I'm not going to pronounce, but I will put right here and tell you what they mean. No hetero marriage, no childbirth, no dating men, and no hetero relationships. The women in South Korea are fighting back against a society that treats them horribly. And many in the US now are starting to take up that movement as well. And you know what? I'm all for it, because the fact is women have been fighting for centuries to be treated with the same level of respect and dignity that men are. And even though they have more rights than they used to have 70 years ago, there are far too many men in this country that think women shouldn't be able to vote or work or own a house, that the only purpose of women in our society is to take care of the house and have children. It's absolutely ridiculous that women are still fighting against this level of misogyny in 2024. It's sad that for all men's statements of protecting women, it's actually more about controlling them. It's time for society to change. And if
Okay, so I let that video play, but let's look at this realistically on what he said, okay? He said that there's still men out there that believe in women not that they should not vote or own property or whatever, right?
Right.
Here's the context that's missing. Are these men, aka children, because they still have, or are they just freaking children who just got out of high school that are thinking this stuff because they're immature? No, they're not going to say that, because if they say that, their viewpoint is invalid, right? Because we discredit children because they don't know any better, correct? So this is the issue as well, is that now you're starting to put it as a label for a whole group rather than a select few that just don't think straight, right? Or don't put any effort to thinking to begin with because they think they're just being funny, right? Because I can't tell you the amount of people out there that are just saying shit just because they think it's funny, whether that is a misandrous woman or a misogynist guy, right? Because it, again, goes both ways. People, there's a heavy tendency of people just wanting to be accepted because of a certain friend group or therefore whatever else, right? Now let's look at the comments for a second. I'm not sorry when I say none of these movements do anything to solve the issues on either side. They just pit men against women and women against men. I don't think a lot of these freaking comments are going to agree fully to this. Opting out of a relationship with toxic men has been a growing trend in the US and other countries for decades. The 4B movement gave it a name, a focus, and a community. Which, when you really think about it, it's not, because what was the new wave of feminism before the 4B movement? It was practically the same. One and the same. Right. In 2007, during the second pregnancy, my doctor recommended, that's not important. You've gained a new follower. Thank you for sharing this. Okay, there's actually more people agreeing to this. They might have been deleted. Who knows? I don't know. But it's funny how that's the one that's upvoted, or at least liked. And we actually talked about this earlier, hun, where they're trying to hide likes and stuff. So that's going to be interesting to see how these things start to progress in an anonymity and upvotes to this sort of stuff. Again, this is for Twitter's recent update, not or is it X now? X versus TikTok.
But they could start making it for other platforms too. So
right, usually TikTok sets. I mean, not TikTok. Twitter sets a trend, and others adapt. Yeah. Let's go to the next one. Activism now.
Too loud.
Okay, well, we will mute that one because
I was going to say something on the if you don't mind.
Oh, go ahead. We'll restart this.
So, if we, if you think about it, okay, so what if there are a lot of guys? You're talking about what does it matter if our current setup is given women all these rights and everything, they have so much, in a lot of instances they have more rights than men. What does it matter if some guy thinks, even if it's not a kid, is misogynist and thinks a woman that's his prerogative? He can think that way. It doesn't mean that the woman has to capitulate and do what he says.
Mm-hmm.
So what does it matter in the long run? You know, if we have laws protecting women's rights and everything set up, which we do, it doesn't matter if these men don't believe in them. They're there, and they and all you have to do is ignore them. That's what I speaking to earlier is it's if you have an unpopular opinion, you're allowed to have it. It doesn't mean that you're going to be popular.
Yeah, and it's
Right.
also another thing where you sit there and when you actually look at the laws, women actually have more agreeable laws towards their predicament as a woman that is more favorable in the eyes of the laws than it is men. 9 times out of 10. And the worst part is, even on a social basis, women and so on and so forth have way more voices than men do when you think about the movements. Okay, let's look at BLM, for example. Women attacked onto that. Let's look at the feminism. Women tacked onto that, obviously, right? But then a lot of these subjects that are spoken of, they're spoken of from a position of being a woman or of color or of sexual gender being a woman. But when you look at it from the guy's social media presence, right, it's usually only from the presence of being a guy. It's hardly the presence of being a gay man or any of that kind of stuff, being of a man particularly, right? Especially with the recent transgender one, it's always viewed as a woman, not as a man, right? 9 times out of 10 anyways. So a lot of these talking points, a lot of the legal points all point towards women having a quote-unquote advantage over the man. So when we present these arguments as women don't have this, women don't have that, or there's some men doing this, it's coming from a minority stance of these people are like what, maybe 4 out of 10 average, maybe even less than that, right? Versus the 60 out of 100 or 70 out of 100 that women have. It's nothing against women for all purposes, you know what I mean? Like, I advocate for a lot of that stuff, maybe not underneath the same banners as the communities, but I do appreciate women and I do wish the best for women, right? Because obviously you want to wish best for everybody, not just for a specific set of people, right? But it comes to a logical doubt when you see a lot of these people say that the way that they do, and it can't be viewed as some kind of form of supremacy over someone else. Because a lot of these people use these kind of things as an advantage stance against other people. And that's my problem with it. But we're going to keep checking unless you guys have anything to add.
No.
Okay. So activism now versus activism then, which I wish we could hear what he's saying, but there is music. I'm going to see if I can keep it nice and low.
Dunny to me. Absolute fast car, a flash house, and a gold-plated dunny to me. Absolutely no good at all. I've been put on this planet to protect wildlife and...
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop there because I know that the music's going to hit us hard. Basically, if you guys don't know this individual, he used to be animal activist?
Yeah.
And he had a show, and he was actually one of the few good people who would actually sit there and not patronize other people. What he would do is explain the wildlife, and then he'll apply his money towards the ideals rather than putting people down. So that's the whole point of this video, is where you have a set group of activists that just want to be disruptive, which I think is most of our society now, just wanting to be disruptive and be like, hey, look at me, my 15 minutes of not shame, but fame, right? Versus those few people who actually wanted to do good in the world. And I think we need to start bringing back those type of people and mentalities versus these people who just do content for the sake of doing content. You guys have any opinions on that? Real quick before we move on to the next video?
No, not on this one.
Not on this one? Okay. Oh. Okay. I'm going to let you take over on this one.
Oh, no. You got this. We got this.
Ah, okay,
We're
fine.
gonna work together, but...
Okay. So
Let's go gambling!
This one's a little loud. Hold on. Oof.
Let's go
Yeah, so we can...
This is gonna be.
Okay, so
Dang it.
we're gonna go dating. She says dating straight my man. Porn addicted, domestic violence, red pill, incel, homeless, begs for sex, and cuck. I want to point out the begs for sex and cuck at the end there for a second, okay? Now, the reason why we brought this one up is not because of the actual video, because obviously someone who's spiteful is just being spiteful, and that's not really much we can cover there, right? Especially with it being not a stitch, but like a comedic, maybe, if that. Let's go to the comments.
It doesn't look very
'cause
comedic.
This is where this particular video kind of shines. All right. Now, I commented on this a while back, maybe last week, which is something that we were trying to cover, me and Allie, this week, one of the weekends, but we never got to it. So I forget which one's the first, but we'll read it. I understand you might have a problem with those around you, but if you want the companionship, it's learning to help each other through bad habits. Oh, is it not letting me read the rest of one? Bad habit. Companionship is learning to help each other through bad habits, bad pasts, and so on and so forth, and develop one. And then we're going to read the next one, which should be this one. The inability to communicate intentions with people describes a lot about this video. Expectation. No, wait, that's I think near the end. Hold on. Oh, okay. So I think they did delete the comments that were on this one. I might have to bring up our Discord real quick because we have snippets of this
Wayback
stuff.
Machine.
All right. So anyway, actually, we're just gonna go ahead and skip. Other than telling, let's just say that this person was very adamant about porn addiction. Porn addiction is an addiction. You can't cure addiction with love, Jesus fucking Christ. You're saying it's an addiction, and I'm sure it might as well be, but your demeanor speaks volumes to the contrary. You could have gone into detail. Why is it not letting me expand any of these? That's weird, because I had a lot more written there.
Maybe because it got deleted, maybe? I don't know.
Probably. Which is why we have the snaps of the content here in a minute. But we're going to circle back to this, okay? So after commenting towards this person about trying to expand oneself, one's mind, like understanding that, yes, there's a porn addiction and there's no validation towards, what was it, abuse?
Go gambling!
Porn addiction, domestic violence. There's no excuse for domestic violence, of course. But it's really telling what the rest of the video says, which is red pill, incel, homeless, and begs for sex and all that stuff, okay?
Yeah.
So they actually decided to make a video about me.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a little video about this guy because he has zero understanding about porn addicts.
I saw this video and I
He
sent
seems
it
to think that you can fix porn addiction with lovemaking and affirmation. That is not how addiction works. He says it's a better alternative than a male running about cheating right or left. That's not what porn addicts are doing. That's literally not what the alternative is. That's literally like saying, like, oh, they're addicted to pills. At least they're not out doing heroin. The statistics between people who commit suicide because they have gambling addiction is exactly the same for people who have a porn addiction. If you have a porn addiction, you need to seek actual professional help.
So
for real quick, hold on.
Go ahead.
Right there, right? She's acting like she cares about men's mental health. Now, I have the other video. I sent it to him or I screenshotted it. One or the other. There's another video. Like right here, she's like, "Oh, I care about people's mental health." Right?
I'll play it real quick. Is it this one?
Okay, you have it.
The quick version story. You know, I really wasn't sure if I was ready to make this video, but I kind of already said it anyway, so I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna tell you guys the quick version story of what happened to my last boyfriend.
It wasn't this one.
No? Okay.
But she has another video where she's pretty much like, I don't care about men's mental health, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then she's commenting, but then she makes this other video. I'll have to find it, but pretty much the whole gist of that is the fact that, first of all, she's saying that all men are pretty much like this. This is why she doesn't want to date straight men anymore, right? And she has her whole her whole video feed of what she puts out is bashing men because of her experiences, right? And yes, cool, I get it. You can put your experiences out there. But if you're bashing all men, right? It's like, okay, maybe she doesn't have a father figure, but you can't tell me that there has not been one single man in her life that has done her right at all, you know? Not even one. But that aside, I forgot what I was even about to say about the video.
Well, either way,
Anyway.
you know how she says about porn addiction, correct?
Oh, yes.
People still message me to make content for them, and it's not the content I want to make. I wish they would, like, can you buy, like, a funny TikTok for me? But no, that's not what they want. They want me to, and then my people.
So this is also a person who did OF content and had the audacity to sit there and be like, oh, well, porn addiction isn't it? Oh, well, how about instead of just preaching about porn addiction, you also stop contributing to porn addiction?
Right.
Wow.
You know what I
Damn.
mean?
Not putting yourself out there to feed into
Yeah,
it.
like, oh my God, she's
So-
trying to eat the cake from both sides. Like, what the?
Yes.
Holy crap.
So we were the only ones who commented on this, obviously. Let's go to the first few here. Oof, that's a long message. Just also a bit of context. When you actually read into this comments on this particular short, there's a lot of people disagreeing with her and how she angrily fights back against
Right.
them.
And this person that does the opposite, right?
Mm-hmm.
Scroll right down. No, scroll down.
Oh,
Scroll down.
opposite.
That one,
Weed
right there.
addiction, single job. Okay, yeah.
Single mother, no job, right?
I take that over. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, I have 3 domestic violence charges and whatever. Yeah,
But
girl,
pretty much
on your
it's-
poor taste in men boils down to right, because men will literally tell you these qualities up front, right? No months, not months and months into talking to you, guilt you into not leaving them low. I never said all men are abusers and women aren't having babies to collect child support. LMAO. Do you know how small? Is it small or small? Small child support payments are. Low, you think women could support a family with $100 a month? Can with the facilities? You
so
look stupid.
That is not how low child support payments are.
Actually,
Yeah,
She obviously does not understand.
It
what she's
entirely
talking about.
depends on your income, whether who is paying for the insurance for the kid. There's a lot that goes into it, and it could be up to like thousands at minimum.
Right.
regardless, the whole point
Saying
of us.
100, that means that she's making good money, and the court decided, oh well, he doesn't have to pay that much.
Right.
Like that yeah. So she's saying, oh, I want my ex, the person that I had a baby with, to pay for everything all the time. Like that's what she wants.
And that's the point that we were trying to get to when we were commenting to her, is seeing an outside perspective, right? So like the whole premise of me bringing up like the porn addiction is, if you look back, like I said before, of witnessing the whole cuck be asking for sex and what incel was it? It sounds to me like there's a, if you look deeply into it, you could see that maybe their partner was trying to communicate with them that they wanted more of a sex life with their partner, and their partner wasn't providing. Therefore, the porn addiction started, and then it became a situation where the partners
Because there's a difference between a porn addiction and somebody who is watching porn to get off,
to survive in the relationship.
Right. Because I have been with somebody who has had an addiction. So I understand, sometimes it just is what it is. But it's a whole nother if you're not communicating with your partner that way, right?
Right, and the context clue of her video and the context of how she's responding to people, it seems like it's more of an opposite situation.
It seems
where
like
nobody
she's blowing
is
it out of proportion.
Right, and
rather
because
than
nobody's
actually going into detail about things.
Right, and because nobody's agreeing with her, she's witnessing that maybe she's not in the right, therefore her emotional standing starts to kick in, where she wants to be aggressive towards others. So on a psychological basis, it's just very telling. Unfortunately, with modern day psychology, a lot of this stuff is not going to be put to press, because it's not socially accepted, quote unquote, right? So either way, this person is just funny to me because we sat there, we tried to have a decent conversation with them, and they just kept retorting back to their stances, which apparently I cannot click on the read more when it comes to that, to mine or theirs. So they might have quote unquote blocked me or whatever.
The one video about them, because I have because I sent you the screenshots.
Yes, we do have the
Of all of the
screenshots.
videos, yes.
We might post them in the Discord server if you guys want further context, but we're gonna keep moving on.
About
else-
our conversations on the other video that she had done about his comment.
Right.
I have the full screenshots about it and all, and she.
So we're gonna move on from hers in detail. All right.
The difference between feminists labeling anything they don't like as misogyny versus religious conservatives labeling anything they don't like as degeneracy.
Okay, well, I think that there is a difference in, like, sometimes people just use it as a cop-out method where they're like, oh, I don't like this, so I'm going to label it as something bad. But I also think that when it comes to misogyny, there is a much more underlying, like, it's there and people are just calling it out, versus when I think degenerates, I think people are just looking for a reason to hate on younger people and, like, somebody doing something different than themselves.
Aren't they both coming from a self-righteous ideology?
100%. I'm not saying I support it. I'm just saying that's what I think.
What's the difference between
All right.
feminists?
Oh, she was almost there when she said that people are using it as a cop-out. Then she backtracked.
Yep. And that's what you see a lot of people doing because they know that they're going to be on camera or they know that it's going to be an open opinion, and therefore they need to warp their mentality to fit the social norms. And I feel like that's the biggest the biggest problem that we have nowadays, because we don't sit there and call it out for what it is anymore. You know? And I feel like that's very damaging in the overall prospect. Like I can't stress this enough how this stuff is starting to impact VR, because a lot of people going from high school to adulthood with wrong prospects of what like reality is, because all they see is these social concepts on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, and they see these norms being applied on high school grounds because nobody knows better, so they all need to conform and fit so they can be popular or socially accepted. And then it becomes a big issue afterwards, right? Because they think that they can apply that logic to real life circumstance, or how can I put this? Not just real life circumstance, but in a social concept where not everybody's going to agree with you, right? Because you have people of a Gen X, whatever, different generations that have different think, right? And it stops being about the boiling everything in a pot. It starts to be about, well, this needs to be the main ingredient, and this needs to be the thing that highlights everything, right? Or I can only view things on one specific aspect because that's what everybody in my circle group agrees with.
Equal.
Oh, look, another
if
whatever.
The men are the ones that have to fight and die to defend the country. The men are the ones that build and maintain all the infrastructure, right? Like, none of this stuff in the studio is built or maintained by women. Do you know that like 90% of infrastructure jobs are still held by men?
Mm-hmm.
And that if you look at the top 20 jobs held by women now in 2024 versus 1924 are almost the exact same. So women have had 100 years to do whatever they want, and they still do the same 20 jobs they did 100 years ago, other than we switched out farm labor for HR work. But other than that, we're secretaries, nurses, daycare ladies, early childhood education, administrative assistants, retail workers, all the same shit that we were a century ago. So
Pretty much.
How are you equal if...
And that's the thing, like, people want to espouse about equality, but when it comes down to actually applying equality, they want the equality of outcome and not equality of labor.
Right, because yes, I am an outlier. I work a warehouse job. I've been there 7 years, but most women that come into that job quit immediately because they don't want to do the actual physical labor job aspect of it.
Right.
You know? Like,
And-
there's 4 other women there, but 2 of them have office jobs. One is the lab tech, and the fourth one is actually out doing the labor and is willing to help. But there's only 2 of us that actually want to do it, and the others don't want to be on the floor actually doing that. So
The thing is that even I also worked a warehouse job for a little bit, and we were supposed to clean the warehouse. I did more work than the guy there because he didn't want to do it. I'm a whole ass female. We're able to do it. Just some of us either choose not to do it, or are just because there's either a male or like somebody there, we get overshadowed or whatnot. But sometimes it happens the other way. It's not always, but people don't see that.
Well, yeah, a lot of people don't see that even your upbringing will predicate what you do. Like, if you're brought up to where the gloves are worn, you know what I mean, where people handle you with gentleness and all that stuff, typically you're gonna have what is called the female mindset, or the female strive to do what helps others with the minimal effort, or whatever fuck goes under, the princess treatment. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
The
So
princess
argument
treatment
here, though,
doesn't
is-
just go towards women; it can go towards men who are soft as well.
Right,
And it's
but
like
the argument here is the fact that typically, now I'm going to the feminist movement has completely evolved from what it originally was, but typically it's given out as we want equality 100%. Okay, if you want equality, then if you're given the opportunity to do this job, why do you say no? Oh, because I'm not built to do that. Okay, so we're not equal to men because we're not.
we're not equal in an aspect with men.
Right, because it's like, okay, cool, here you go. Physical labor job. I'm not built to do that. You could build yourself up to be built to do that, like I have. No, I don't want to. Well, there it is. You don't want to do the things to be equal. It's
Right.
not that people can't, or that people have been. It's like, yeah, sure, some people have been brought up not to do that, but those people who have been brought up not to do that are not fighting to be equal.
I think the only exception to that is people that are medically unable to. Like, I literally, because of me being prone to heat stroke and my asthma and all that stuff, it's hard for me to do a lot of manual labor, but I still at least try.
Right, and that just becomes a matter of willpower at that point. Am I right?
Yeah.
Not about your sexuality, or not
No,
sexuality,
not at
your
all.
sexual
Well,
identity or gender.
Gender, yeah.
Right.
And that's where I sit here and laugh about all these concepts because, again, nobody thinks. Nobody wants to think. They want an easy way out. It's never about having to strive to get things done, whether it's hard or not. It's always, I want to take the easiest path. Which, don't get me wrong, is understandable because it's usually the lazy man that's going to come up with a inventive way of getting the job done,
Right.
But at the end of the day, we got to stop using that as a logical fallacy for acting or behaving inappropriately or thinking things that aren't quite right.
Out of the Cannes Film Festival from George Lucas and we got a clip out of the Cannes Film Festival from George Lucas responding to seemingly a question about female heroes within Star Wars.
There's no women in the movies. Who do you think the heroes are in those films? What do you think Princess Leia was? She is the head of the rebellion. She's the one that's taking this young kid that doesn't know anything on this boisterous, I know everything guy who can't do anything, trying to save the rebellion with these clowns. You can't just put a woman in pants and expect her to be a hero.
So it seems like George Lucas might be subtly calling out some people within Hollywood by saying you can't just throw pants on a woman and make her act like a man to have her be a girl boss. It's about the mind, it's about the leadership, it's about the logistics of the matter. And I honestly think that's why we're getting all these girl boss heroes that don't actually feel like heroes at all. It's this sort of superficial view that we have of feminism and fighting the patriarchy that has ushered its way into movies but doesn't tell a real story and doesn't actually represent what true feminine heroes are. And
See, this is the hardest part about this is that, like, I can agree and disagree with this. Let me hear your guys' stance first before I comment.
Disney's been going wild with that.
I mean, like I very much agree with what she's saying. I mean, it's I think that you have a lot of, like, the idea is with the feminism is that they're going like on the opposite end, like women superior, and like every woman is like girl boss thing. so you know, when you talk about Star Wars and Rey, she's like the classic Mary Sue. She has all the powers and no reason to have them. And then they just retcon it in and like, oh well, it's because her father was a dish and that, and so she got her power from that. But she doesn't explain how she has any skill at all in anything. So you have all these characters where they're trying to be like they're trying to make this awesome, super powerful girl, but there's no explanation. There's no sustenance. There's no thought put into it other than she's just better than everybody else. So because she's a girl boss. Like, no, that's not a fun character. That's not a fun story. That's not something you can relate to. It's not realistic in the slightest. So yeah, no, I think that if I love a very strong female lead, but they have to make sense. It has to be good to a story, and they don't do that anymore. All they do now is all this BS. But I don't know.
That's because so the real life aspect of this. Okay, we know if you've ever even managed to study. I'm not saying that most of our viewers don't, but for people who don't know this information, I'm gonna lay it out there. Okay, the IQ of men is wide in range. Correct? It can go from really dumb brick brain to very fucking smart, right? However, with the female pool, it's actually medium, meaning that it's in both the not overtly stupid, which is very rare. Let me put it this way. It's like if the scale was 100, right? Women are between the scale of 40 to 70, if not even more, right? With the rare outliers, but we're talking about generality, right? Men can be from 10 to 100, okay? Or 10 to 90, whatever, right? So for the most part, even in an evolutionary stance, women have always been revered as the ones who technically have the intellectual, the brains of the two, okay? Because they have the most common medium, right, of being smart. So when it comes to the hero female identity concept is that they are very experienced. They've gained experience because of what they've dealt with or with what they've experienced or what their partner has told them and so on and so forth. They apply their mind, right? The hero concept for a guy is either usually leadership or because, again, experience, right? Or it's because of the brute bronze, right? Of being able to save because they saved him from a gunshot or whatever, right? I digress. So that's the hero concepts that in general have been always spoken about when it comes to male and female heroes. So when you put that very same concept in reverse, where it's just bronze and leadership, but no experience, well, then you have a logical fallacy going on, right? Because then it doesn't make sense. Well, let's look at for like the recent Star Wars, or not the most recent, but one of them where the girl is the Jedi, I guess. I forget what her name is. But not
Rey.
Rey and the other one, right?
Oh, the other one.
Where
Okay, so
we've
my
lost.
brain just went wee for a minute.
Right, we've lost all having to train and get better and know and experience building to just straight up. Oh yeah, I know how to force heal. Bitch, even Luke, who was really fucking experienced, didn't know how to force heal. Anakin didn't know how to force heal.
They literally added an entire beginning of a movie dedicated to his training.
Exactly.
To show that. I also, if you look at side chat when you were talking about, I believe you were referencing the bell curve. There's a really funny whatever video about that.
Oh, the side
chat. Bell curve. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll look at the IQ video if I got the chance, but
yeah, you're fine.
We're gonna.
I just wanted to show you.
We're gonna move on. So this is one I wanted to cover. It's gonna be pretty short, but this is what I mean by like stuff that happens in VR and how they kind of lash out.
A worker melts down over a Make America Great Again hat and Trump shirt. Check this out.
I am looking forward to releasing this video because I just want to purchase something.
Get the off of here, man! Fuck, man! You can't stand your racist motherfuckers!
Racist?
Yeah!
Stir. Right. I'm not a racist.
He's wearing some Trump bullshit, got some racist bullshit all up in his head and shit. I don't fucking...
Okay.
I'm not serving you one that has to
Okay, no.
I'm sorry. I don't have a problem with you, sir. I'd like to purchase some of this naked vape juice, though, if that would be all right. All right, see, because... Okay, here's where we're at.
Leave the store.
Here's where you're at.
Leave the store.
Here's
Leave
where...
the store.
Here's where
Leave the store.
Honestly,
Okay,
I hope
so
that guy got fired.
Now this is okay. So like yes, like in the last video that we watched, they talked about racism and prejudice. You know, being prejudiced. This is someone being prejudiced against anyone that likes Trump.
Right.
Right, and besides the prejudice, the whole point and prospect of this video is that even though you're acting cordial, right, proper, whatever, and you're not actually being hateful toward them, or you're just expressing an opinion, but you're still being cordial, because you can have a different opinion and still be cordial to somebody or nice to somebody, despite the opinion being different. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to VR, meaning that people react in this manner. That it's harmful because they want to say that there's this person and that person, let's say you're black or trans or whatever, right? And they don't agree with your idea concept, but they're being cordial toward you. They're malicious more than the opposing side that they quote unquote are suppressed from. You know what I mean? And I'm sick and tired of seeing people that don't actually realize just how out of pocket these type of people are. Now, the people who are quote unquote on the right side do. I don't like bringing the whole political viewpoint, but you know what I mean. There are people who are actually pointing these out, but they don't get much of a voice versus the whiners. I call them whiners because at the end of the day, they're not actually trying to improve nothing. They're just trying to have social superiority over you because they are lazy in that fashion. And yes, I will call them out to being lazy because guess what? You're a dick. And I'm looking at you, viewer who agrees with these type of viewpoints, because you could still be you and not make it your whole personality or identity complex that you feel the need to lash out to people who are otherwise being nice to you. Anyway, we're gonna truck on. Sorry, that's one of my... You guys know that that's one of my pet peeves when people are fucking extreme and they don't ever sit there and actually consider the opposite side.
Right.
Any risks to eating animal food? I don't think there are any risks to eating animal foods exclusively.
And you are a psychiatrist, am I
Right, I
correct?
did a residency in psychiatry.
So what do you know about nutrition?
What is
Where
any-
did you gain your background in nutrition?
Listen, this is, I think...
No,
is a-
you listen to me and answer my question. Now I'm asking you to tell us where your background emanates from.
I went to medical school, and I studied nutrition in medical school, and I studied nutrition independently. One of the crazy things about medical school is that it teaches you how to read articles.
The
It's
bottom
not
line
fair.
is you practice psychiatry, am I correct?
I practice medicine.
And they say that men mensplain. That is womansplaining to the max. My friend Brianna responded and said, typical feminist, angry, unhealthy, unable to hold a respectful conversation, dominates, yells over everyone, asks a question, and then doesn't let you answer. Yeah, because they don't like to be in the wrong. JP Sears said, this lady seems very happy and a good person to take health advice from. Oh yeah, just like Rachel Levine.
I don't think...
So...
There is a strict difference between nutrition and like a nutritionalist and a psychiatrist.
Right, but he
Psychiatrists
studied.
focus
He literally
solely-
just said. He literally
Oh,
just
Lord.
said he studied nutrition because he had to take the medical aspect of things. He studied nutrition, so he knows the nutrition side of things. Yes, he practices psychology, but he went to medical school. He took nutritional classes.
That's the
Like,
funny...
so he has that aspect of it.
That's the funny part that I laugh about this video is that like even you love you bitch.
Shut
But don't get mad. I'm just playing. You know, where it's like they want to look at something like, let's say for an instance, I used to do electrical work, right?
Mhm.
That doesn't mean I didn't know how to fix my car because I had to work on my car, right? So just because I say, oh, maybe you need to try this, you don't give me this, you can't just discredit me out of the way right away. You can maybe put it as like a lesser value to my opinion, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't come from a source of knowledge. It might not be the full knowledge scope that you require to solve your problem, but it might help, right? Like, let's say, for example, in the car, there's electrical parts. So my electrical background can actually help in that regards, right? Whether your battery is helping or not. But just like what she said, because I'm not a mechanic, I have no say. Does that not sound wrong?
It's like because you're not a mechanic, because you're not a mechanic and no, okay, sorry. Because you don't have that background of going to a mechanics class, some people might not trust you. But if you were to tell me, I've worked on cars, my car, like I work on my own car, you know, like I wouldn't trust somebody who has never worked on a car in their life.
Right.
But when he says, I have been to medical school, I've taken the nutritional classes, that would have put all arguments aside, right? She was like, where's your nutritional background? And he said it. But because he doesn't practice it, she doesn't care.
Right.
And that's what I find kind of stupid, for
right.
lack of a better term.
And
right
it's
now.
like, I get it that you don't want to hear an outside perspective if it doesn't align with you to a degree, but at the same time, it's just common decency to treat someone with a modicum of respect if they're like at least trying to talk to you civilly versus being angry and upset. But Amber, you did want to say something, and we didn't want to like interrupt you.
Okay, so y'all speaking kind of brought an idea to my head. So like, yes, I get that he like, yeah, he knows about nutrition because he had to study it and whatnot, but in my opinion, no amount of nutritionalist or anything should really be telling, like, they can't just put everyone into a box, because I've seen like a lot of nutritionalists just be like, oh, you can do that, that, and the other thing. Or there's even people that go on social media saying that they're, oh, I'm a nutritionalist, but in reality, all they did was just read
Attend a
about it.
class.
Yeah, read about it, like, you know, and they assume that everyone's body type is the same as theirs. So they're like, okay, you gotta do this, that, and the other thing. No.
Right.
Right.
That would be like the same for some people that, some keyword, there's some people that work on cars or work on computers. They're like, oh, I know how to do this because I worked on mine, and like, yeah, cool, you have that experience. But do you realize that they're all different?
Yeah.
Right.
That's like saying somebody from the Chevy company working on a car having to work on a Maserati. It's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're used to that one.
Yep. I just love that, like, from the beginning to the end of almost the end of this, it's always the fact that people don't want to tack on or add things to the equation. They just want to keep the equation simple, and that's not how real life works. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really not. There's a
That's
lot
why
of
we live in the gray area.
complexities in it. That's why people with anxiety seem to thrive, because they see everything.
Yep. Most of the people that are in business that are in high positions have anxiety, and they have ADHD. They have all the, well, not ADHD. They have compulsive disorders or stuff like that, because they see everything and not just ignore the minute.
Because they have to think of all the possibilities, all the different outcomes, all the different workarounds, all
Right.
that stuff. They have to think of every possibility, every side, like their side and their consumer side. Like it, you have to see it from every point
Angle.
of view if you can.
Yep.
Every angle, point of view, perspective, whatever you want to call it, and otherwise, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yep. You guys ready for the next one?
I have a question for Andrew. Do you think men should...
Have you been discriminated against?
Yes, I have been discriminated
And
against.
who discriminated against
An
you?
employer discriminated against me. They asked me to cut my hair.
Was it a white man or a white
This was
person?
a
or people?
Caucasian female.
Okay, and so private job?
No,
Private.
this is a public sector job.
Okay, so you filled out the application.
I filled out the application.
And you said on the app that I will follow the rules if
That
you
I would
pay me
follow
X
the
amount of
rules.
dollars.
Yes.
And did you have the afro at the time?
Yes, I had my afro at the time.
And she says what to you about your hair?
She told me that I had to cut my hair, that my hair had gotten too long and looked unmanaged.
Oh, okay. And
That's
what's
not
wrong with that?
discrimination.
A lot is wrong with that.
Why? Why don't you want to look? I wouldn't hire you with the hair look like that. It doesn't
That's
look
my natural hair texture.
It doesn't.
This is the one problem I have with the the host, is because he never finishes the correct. I wouldn't say the correct line of thinking, but like finish the point before jumping to the like, oh, I'm gonna piss you off.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Either way, it's not discrimination though.
right? It's not.
It depends on what type of job he was going for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not, because like there, where his hair is, looks fine, right? It looks manageable. But if he was going to, like, say, work in somewhere dealing with food, right?
Hairnet.
Hairnet, or like
Well, also keep in mind this is a big thing that he's on right now. There's probably like hairstylists and all that stuff there, making his hair look really nice compared to what he would probably do to his own hair to go to a job interview. It's something that's not seen by 8 million different people.
But I'm commenting on what the host had said. It was like, I wouldn't hire you looking like that.
Yeah,
You know,
that
looking
would
like
make
this right here, looking manageable. That
Yeah, he looks fine like that.
He looks clean. Like this is the thing that I have. It's like people want to apply Starbucks to everything, meaning that you could dress and be however you like, and because they got lids and they got containers that hide the food from, or if I hide the drink from contact to someone's hair, right? But they're not applying it to say, not a lawyer, but like the front of the company, right? Or the aspect of where am I getting the contact with food, or like we don't know what job he was applying for.
right.
That
And that's what I was saying. Yeah, like,
and
we
then
don't
we-
know what he was applying to.
Right, and then there's also the sense where like, well, then you should have read your contract.
Right.
Where they had these stuff stipulated before you came in. So it's not discrimination off of the basis that you didn't read the damn contract.
Right. It's like without knowing the background of it, because he agreed to the rules, and if the rules was you have to be this, that, and the other, then you had already agreed to it, and you can't get mad that they're upset over you not following the rules.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I might have not heard the order of it correctly, but I don't think he specified whether or not she asked him to cut his, told him that he needed to cut his hair for the job.
Have you been
before he signed the paperwork or after?
Well,
I don't know. I don't think
we'll
we made it all the
replay
way
it. We'll replay it to the full completion. That way you can catch up too. Okay, and that way we could also finish the video because I kind of interrupted halfway through. Okay.
Okay.
Discriminated against.
Yes, I have been discriminated
And
against.
who discriminated against
An
you?
employer discriminated against me. They asked me to cut my hair.
Was it a white man or a white
This
person?
was a
or people?
Caucasian female.
Okay, and so private job?
No,
Private.
this is a public sector job.
Okay, so you filled out the application.
I filled out the application.
And you said on the app that I will follow the rules if
That
you
I would
pay me
follow
X
the
amount of
rules.
dollars.
Yes.
And did you have the afro at the time?
Yes, I had my afro at the time.
And she says what to you about your hair?
She told me that I had to cut my hair, that my hair had gotten too long and looked unmanaged.
Oh, okay. And
So from I'm gonna interrupt again, but then we'll resume it. It sounds to me that they accepted him at first. However, his hair was at the start. He agreed to the rules, and then his hair had gotten to a length that was unmanageable. So not like how he is currently in that video. Okay?
What's wrong with that?
A lot is wrong with that.
Why? Why don't you want to look? I wouldn't hire you with that hair look
It's
like
not-
that. It doesn't
that's
look
my natural hair texture.
It doesn't look professional.
Yeah, I'm not feeling this.
It doesn't look professional. Hold on.
Yeah,
No.
you ready?
Now you can stay, baby, and
Yeah.
operate on
I'll
those.
stay.
Why is she?
All right.
Why is she about here around?
You traumatizing them.
And then, so you
Yeah,
see,
it doesn't specify whether or not the person that told him to cut his hair did it before or after.
no, it does
Right.
by
It
context.
doesn't. I mean, it doesn't really matter because I mean, like you said, they were okay with it with whatever he started as, and then it got to a point where it
was
wasn't okay,
unmanageable,
and then
yeah.
they asked that, and that was the point of why he asked, "Did you agree to the rules when you did that?" It doesn't matter if it wasn't stated in the very beginning that he had to keep his hair managed. That should be just a generalized thing. If especially if we don't know what position
the
he's
thing
doing.
is, maybe he's saying that he was discriminated against because they told him to cut his hair. That is not considered discrimination.
Oh no,
Especially
it's
if
not.
It's part of the job.
Now,
If
now
she
for
tells
for
him,
for
that's
him,
what-
he's going to say it's discrimination because it's a white woman asking a black man to cut his hair, and that's a cultural hairstyle or something. I'm sure that's what his argument is.
And
but it
that's
doesn't
what a lot
matter.
of people take advantage of.
Yeah,
Is the cultural
he's just
stance.
he's just copping a fit because he doesn't want to do that, and he's turning it into this whole big thing because that's easier for him to do than to be like, oh well, I got to take care of myself. No. Bullshit.
It's the people trying to be lazy and also copping out with an excuse that socially is acceptable.
Hell, I don't like doing my hair, but when I go to work, I know just basically that it's common sense to make sure that you look at least relatively well kept. Like have your hair, nice and up, your clothes not
Even.
filthy and smelling like bleh.
Even and
Yeah.
straight or curly but looking nice.
Yeah.
No split ends, that type of thing. Like for me, when I was looking at his hair, his head is a little patchy.
Professional.
If you look at it, it's
Yeah.
gunged up a little bit and all the other stuff. But like I said, they're using the excuse that he is quote unquote of color, and his family's also trying to back up by yelling, right?
Yeah, I'm not feeling this.
It doesn't look professional.
Trying to say that he's gonna get
And that is
She-
what the
she
yes
literally
cult.
at one point said that you're traumatizing him.
That
That's
is-
not traumatizing.
Right, that's the echo chamber that I was talking about earlier that we witnessed in VR2, where you have a group of people who just say yes so that they can keep you in a certain mindset. That way they can keep you close to their proximity. Okay, rather than allowing somebody to open their mind and see multiple perspectives, there are people out there that don't want them to change because they might separate from you. Especially those who are manipulative or people who even don't know that they're being manipulative, but they are trying to keep you in a specific mindset so that you guys stay friends.
One of the things I wanted to say at that one was the one when you guys were talking about how they're stuck in this mindset. Some people are only
you
stuck
voted-
in the mindset because they were taught that by someone else that was also taught that. Like it could be just something that's a passed down taught, or and they just chose to stick with it because they trusted that person, or they just were like, oh, I'm not sure about this, but never felt like going to go actually figure out if they were right or not, compared to some people who are still taught that but are like, no, I'm gonna go see if this is true or not, or if I need to change my perspective because I'm not sure. Or some people are actually taught, hey, see it from all perspectives. Sometimes it's a taught thing, and it's not a good thing.
No.
Right.
All
That's
right.
where when people bring it up is when most people are like, no, because this is how I am, this is whatever, and nobody most people don't want to take that step out.
Like I'm sure that that guy that said he was discriminated against because of his hair was probably taught that by his mama right there.
Probably.
Yeah. That's what I mean by locking people in a certain mindset. Because it benefits them to keeping people under a certain check or parameter. Alright, we're going to go to this last video we have, unless you guys want to tack on one more or two. Because I know you guys said something about finding a certain specific video.
For Joe Biden
that
and you
was
have a
right.
daughter, look
Yep.
her in the eyes and explain to her that you were too much of a sheep to vote the right. Have
Hold
a
on, I'll start
daughter,
from the
look her
beginning.
in the eyes. You voted for Joe Biden and you have a daughter, look her in the eyes and explain to her that you were too much of a sheep to vote the right way, that it will now cost her spaces, her privacy in bathrooms and locker rooms, her scholarships that are designated just for women, and it is embarrassing to me the amount of women who voted for Joe Biden.
It really is. It really is. It's like you do not care about your own interest. You are so corrupted by this idea that feminism has to be intertwined with every other social issue that you are literally voting to give your actual rights away. Somebody commented and said, my daughter goes into middle school next year and I am so scared for what she might experience. You should pull her out. They named Dylan Mulvaney Woman of the Year. Yeah. So I don't think these women really care very much that they are being erased.
So, if we really want to talk about minority cases, right? and there's not a lot of women that are willing to speak up, doesn't that classify them as a quote-unquote minority in this situation of speaking about it? So if minorities are taken into consideration, why is it that we choose to select only a select minority versus all the minorities? That's what I don't get when we're talking about minority in general, where we can't even acknowledge the fact that we only select and choose what we think is righteous versus what is actually correct and right in society as a whole, not just a select few individuals. You know what I mean? Because if there's a lot of women out there that feel uncomfortable because a transitioning person enters their space, why is it so hard that we can't just seem to acknowledge that the easier of all the outcomes would be just to make a select space for them?
Right.
Why does it have to be so controversial because you want to be a part of something that you weren't born into?
Well, the thing is that, okay, so when it comes to like how she was talking about voting for the president and whatnot, I know
I don't
my
like bringing politics, but yeah.
no, listen, my mom has tried many a time to drill into my head, vote for this party no matter what. With my sister, it worked. Harmony my sister. She votes for whoever my mom wants to vote for. Me, I vote for who I want to vote for. Some people are physically brainwashed by their either family, parents, friends, group,
Emotions.
partner, to vote for a specific person, a specific party, that type of thing. And there are, when you're in your terms, a minority of people that go with their own beliefs and not with the people around them.
Right. So, and it's, people are also brainwashed by their emotions too, because like I said again, you have the peer pressure and social anxiety and all these different things that make you choose a specific route because it agrees with your emotional standard, you know. And
Yeah.
I feel
There's even
like
prejudice in it.
right, and I feel like if we really want to accept everything that's out there, then we need to be as open as we were back in the early 2000s. And I know that sounds weird saying that, but I mean that from a place of growing up, my personal experience, not from a obvious generality at the time. But while we were growing up, we were told not to look at race, not to look at gender, and to just let things be as they are. Whoever is capable of doing it can do it, and whoever can think it, rather than this now inclination of going back on what we were taught to be socially correct, because it doesn't apply to the narrative of like either whoever started it, basically, right? Which I'm assuming is the big communities or government, whoever really put the nest in the egg, or I mean the egg in the nest. You know what I mean?
At this rate, the world as a whole is moving sheerly backwards. We're moving forwards in some aspects, but in terms of like the mental states and
well, you say that,
being
but Europe
one-
has decided to go back and not go with these progressive movements because they're seeing the damage that it's causing. Like they don't have
Okay.
what do you call it? They accept gay people, but they don't have Pride Month, for example, anymore. It's about family
Yeah.
pride now
Yeah.
and other stuff like that.
I don't understand all these special months like Black History Month or Pride Month or like I don't understand why we
It's
need to
because people
dedicate
are
an
trying
entire month to a minority of individuals. And I'm saying this as a Black LGBTQ member. Funny enough, both.
Mhm.
I don't feel the need that we need to have that. It's stupid.
It's people trying to bandage a problem rather than giving it a tourniquet. You know what I mean? Instead of cutting off the problem and fixing it, right? They want to bandage it because they know that they can make more money if they just quote unquote bandage it and let people rage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like it's fine to like do like the pride parades and all that because we do like Christmas parades and Thanksgiving parades. Those are fine.
A lot
But
of
to dedicate like a whole month, we're going a little extreme on things when it's not something that is that extreme, and we need to really dial that back.
a lot of it is predicated on the market. It's yes, it's socially based, But if somebody can see a way to make money off of these sort of concepts, they will go full ham in it.
Oh yeah.
So that's why you see people like Pride Month. Oh, why? Why are we promoting Pride Month? Oh, well, because now I can sell like 32 different thousand flags. I can sell different clothing. I can open up a store dedicated to it, and it's all money based.
Well, I mean, you look at last month,
Mhm.
and every single company on the planet, in America at least, everybody changes their logo to the flag of allegiance, and then end of the month it's all back to normal, you know. But not
Yep.
in countries where it's you know,
Frowned upon.
Yeah.
Not only that, but also let's look at the recent controversy with Bud Light and all these other different companies that went LGBTQ and losing their revenue. They stopped because they knew that at the end of the day, you're not gaining a market. And that's what it is. It's a market. What can I sell to who? Who do I incline myself with? And all this different stuff. And it stops being about the general person or the general populace. It's about the what can I gain?
Right. It's like, yes, okay, cool. As somebody who is part of that, right? It's cool to have representation, but when it goes overboard and you know it's just for monetary gain, it's stupid. Like, cool, yes. Go gays, fun times, right?
Mm-hmm.
But whenever June rolls around, you know, it's like, yes, cool, you know, it's my birthday, cool. Pride Month, cool, one and the same, whatever. But when
This month,
that's the
I always
only
forget.
time that things then that's the only time that it's quote unquote okay to be gay, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I hate about it, is it's like, okay, cool. Now it's overdone, and I know that you're only supportive because you can get money for it, you know?
Right, and it stops.
Because then at that point, it's no longer support. It's fake.
Right, and it stops being about you developing your own person. It's about this becomes my personality. This fake identity is who I am. Rather than actually stepping forward and seeing that some of these things don't define who you are, because there's more to you as a person.
Mhm.
And that's what
Because
I
some
hate.
people do make that all about who they are.
Right.
And like we've discussed this before, you know?
Yeah, and that's where I find it to where why I have such a dislike for a lot of people on VR is because a lot of them present these fake personalities or identities because they don't yet know who they are, but they never allowed themselves to step out of that bubble because they have a whole group of yes men that help them think that this is okay. Which, again, there's nothing inherently wrong with being LGBTQ, black, or any of that stuff. It's about the fact that you're promoting it to such a degree that it starts to become a supremacy in the conversation. Right? Where I'm not allowed to say, oh, I like your, I don't know, your dreads, and I'm white. I'm not supposed to like them. Because that's appropriation rather than appreciation. Or any of those other weird kind of ways you want to place it, right? It stopped being about we are a community as a whole. We are a community as like people that hate each other. That's what it is. All right, well, that makes the last video. Did you guys want to tack one last one on, or are you guys good for the night?
Do you want to throw the bell curve video in or no?
If you want to, you got to send it to me, though.
He put it in the side chat.
That's when he was talking about the one that he put in the side chat of
Yeah,
DC.
it's just because you
DC,
mentioned it earlier, and I was like, oh, that
why
sounds
would
just
God
like the
equip
video.
average woman to be smarter than men? Do you think it's just for homeschooling their children? So why would God equip
Okay, let me raise the volume on this.
the average woman to be smarter than men? Do you think it's just for homeschooling their children?
Again, the claim that you made at first, which is that men and women have bell curves, the men's bell curve being wider than the woman's, would not imply that the average woman is smarter than the average man.
Oh, no.
It would line them up
the
exactly.
curve itself
right?
implies or actually indicates that
No, it would
on
just be the
average.
extremes.
No,
Right,
no.
it would-
If you actually look at the curves at the top, it's women taller than the men's curve.
I'm sorry to say, but is she stupid? Like,
right,
I mean, that's the whole point of the video is like explaining the bell curve.
Just because it's taller doesn't make them smarter. It's left to right that makes them smarter or dumber, not up and down, genius.
Yeah, that's
The
A.
IQ
That's
of the curve
A.
would be on the x-axis.
No, that's
right?
IQ.
That's where you get
No,
screening.
the
So yeah,
This is the amount of people.
Yeah, up and down is
Oh,
the
up
amount
and
of
down.
people. Yes.
I thought it was
Left to
age.
right is a
Up and
smart
down.
is how
It says
from
probability density, which is amount of people, and then
Oh.
IQ is left to right. Which,
Right.
yes, on average, women start off at a smarter IQ, but the men tend to have the highest IQ rather than women. Like as you can
And
see,
Yeah, it's all it's saying is that there's more women that have it at
Right.
that IQ than men,
right.
but yet, however,
But the smarter women, the higher IQ women, do tend to be like
it shows that men have both a higher, if I can see it correctly, because I can't see from this far. It looks like it says that men both have a higher and lower IQ than female.
Yes.
But
yes,
less of them at the
at
minimum.
like the midpoint. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I was just seeing
here,
if I could see that correctly.
here's the thing, and this is where I always laugh because we as a society acknowledge science, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Evolutionary science
yeah.
dictates that usually the dumb or the weak or the non-evolved creature dies out, right? We see that with dinosaurs or whatever the fuck. Well, that was because of a meteor, or maybe it wasn't. We don't know, but not fully, anyways. Like we weren't there, but we
Well, an
know.
example of it would be like the dodo birds. The dodo
The
birds
dodo
are not
birds.
afraid
Okay,
of
good.
humans, and they're completely freaking extinct. They
Right.
were stupid enough to trust the humans.
So
and
back
now they're gone.
in an evolutionary talk from cavemen to early centuries, right? If women did not listen to the man, and yes, I know this sounds really fucked up or misogynistic, whatever. It's not the point. They would either die, get beat up, or whatever the fuck, right? So inherently, there was a need within the female population to develop a good mindset, right? An intellectual mindset, because it was endangering them as a whole. Rather for men, because they had the bone structure to be able to be overpowering, they didn't have an inherent need to be acutely smart. That's why you have this chart, because over a period of time, in order for survival instinct to kick in, we had to either be strong or smart, and for the women, it was mostly on an intellectual base, because the jobs at the time, at the early ages and early stages, was mostly intellectual based, not physically based.
Right.
Okay? Yeah. So even on an evolutionary scale, this makes sense. Okay? So, with that being said, there's nothing wrong or inherently wrong with this fucking chart at all, because, yeah, you get a mixed bag of bolts with men, right? And with women, a lot of them like to be smart, with good reason, because they have to be, right? Especially because you don't want, even as a society, as a guys growing up in the recent ages, we didn't want women to get taken advantage of anyways, right? Especially a lot of fathers would tell that you're not going to let that boy diddle you or treat you wrong or this, that, and the other, right? Especially in the early, I think when we started to have an actual society, when was it? Like,
couldn't tell you.
Let's just say even from an American standpoint of view, like when we started to develop electricity, okay, 200-300 years ago, whatever, right? 200-300 years ago, people started to treat each other more quaintly, right? And tried to evolve one's mindset, because that was when we needed to learn how to read, write, and all that stuff, right? Because we had the education. Let me put it this way: when we started putting in the education system more heavily, both for men and women, you started to see an incline of parental figures wanting to say, hey, there's a princess treatment, but we also need to make them smart so they don't get taken advantage of. They need to be aware of this, that, and the other. So a lot of the intellectual stuff was put on upon women's shoulders. So that's why you also see this incline of women being more acutely smart within the 100 range. Let me say it's 100 here in the middle ground, okay? And that's why you see real heavily, especially with people who decide to be guards or security or manual labor, a lot of those jobs went to men. That's why you see a lot of men here in the 70s to 90, right? Then we also had the scientists that made the, like I said before, the electricity and so on and so forth, that are the men that are over here. Okay? On an evolutionary scale, this makes sense. And for people like her to argue it, it's you don't see the full picture. You just want to say that one person that on average females are just smarter than men, and that they should all bow down and be submissive towards women. And that's where the feministic viewpoint is like, okay, you stopped being about the whole, you started being about supremacy. In my thoughts. What do you guys think about that? Other than her trying to.
I think that's it.
Yeah, honestly, I agree with you there. That's one of the things that I hate about the whole feminist movement is like the fact that it's to the extreme now rather than originally just what it was supposed to be. It has completely changed from what it originally was brought up to be. And it's no fun.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of these quote-unquote communities and movements, they're not studious anymore. It's all about what can promote me right now. What can make me superior to you right now versus actually studying about the logic and the history behind it. All right, well, that's the end of our stream for now. You guys have any last comments you guys want to share with whomever was watching the show before we end it?
Mine is just make sure to get all the facts and form your own opinion from what you've learned. Don't just be one of the herd.
One of the herd.
Yeah.
Or sheeple.
Yeah.
How about you, Riz?
It's okay to have an opinion. It's okay to want to do the right thing. It's just remembering not to like at the end of the day, whenever you're formulating your opinion and you're trying to do the thing, are you oppressing more people than you're trying to save?
Right.
I feel like, and are you being, whenever you're trying to do this thing, are you being selfish in your own opinion just because you want to be right? I think we have so much selfishness. Hey, people need to really I love the golden rule: do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And I think
Absolutely.
we need a lot more of that. But yeah, if there's anybody are we answering any questions for anybody that was watching or?
I don't know if there was any questions made.
There wasn't anything. No comments or anything.
Nothing.
But pretty much, it's like, yes, you can have your own opinion, right? But when that opinion or that stand of yours, like that one video where the guy got so aggressive just because somebody was a Trump supporter, right? If that opinion or that stance that you have goes against what somebody else has, and it becomes violent, or you decide to just go off on somebody when they have done nothing wrong, that's when you should take a step back and reflect, because you wouldn't want the same thing to happen to you, right? So yeah, obviously, do unto others as you would want done unto yourself. But when it comes down to how you want to be treated and your stance on things, I'm about to repeat myself there, but yeah, pretty much, if you don't want it done to yourself, why would you do it to other people? And when you come across something that is given to you, either in detail or not, rather than just straight up agreeing and not, you should do your own research on things. You shouldn't just automatically be like, oh, I saw this video on it, it's automatically true, because I see that a lot. A lot.
I'm gonna add in here, also, outside of just I guess agreeing straightforward with someone, it's also learning about having the middle ground. Learn to not just take what other people do, of course, but also don't, just because someone else has done it to you doesn't justify you doing it to others. Okay? Always reach a middle ground with people and try to be as cordial as possible, because at the end of the day, those who are not worth knowing or getting to know, or who are extreme, might not be what's best for your life anyway. Right? Always learn that there's going to be something out there that you don't know, that it's worth getting to an understanding or learning of it. And learn that at the end of the day, we are just people, and not all of us have experienced the same thing. And that being open-minded requires a lot of willpower and patience than what the current standard is, which is god-awful, considering that people will react off of just one word.
Right.
All right. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this. We might do another one.
Hopefully more to come. And
Hopefully more to
not
come, yes.
3 months later.
I will fight you.
And I will fight you right on back.
We will either do more reacts, or we might even do game streams and talking about stuff. If you guys are interested in us reacting to anything in specific, you guys feel free to leave a comment, like and subscribe, of course. And feel free to join our Discord, as it's linked down below, for more accurate responses from me or any of the staff or visitors and so on and so forth. If you guys want to promote anything, feel free. All right. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.